Hello listeners and welcome to this week's recording of Boomerang. The team today is made up of Sadie, Ruth, Claire and Rosemary. John is our engineer and Heather today is our copier. The news this week is taken with permission from the West Lothian Courier dated the 4th of July 2024. As usual, the news will be broken into 4 sections and we start section 1 with general news. And the first item is the headline item and the heading is Meet the Quad Squad and is by Billy Gaddy. The first naturally conceived quadruplets in Lothian have been born to a Longridge couple who overcame incredible odds of 1 in 700,000 to give birth to 4 gorgeous baby boys. Arlene and John Mitchell welcomed the rare set of quadruplets into the world on May the 14th. The tiny new arrivals, Ben, Noah, Harrison and Rory, tipped the scales at less than £3 each, with the smallest being Harrison at £2.14, while Ben, Noah and Rory each weighed £2.15. Naturally conceived, quadruplets are extremely rare, with doctors estimating the odds about 1 in 700,000 births. Arlene, 34, and John, 38, who already have a daughter Lauren, 11, and 3-year-old son Hunter, are now getting used to being a family of 8. Arlene said, "It was a total shock when we found out there were 4 babies at the first scan. The nurse said she thought there was more than 1 baby, and then she said there was more than 3 babies. I was absolutely speechless and my husband couldn't believe it. They're all really beautiful and we're so delighted. We can't wait to take our 4 boys home to Lauren and Hunter and start our journey as a family of 8. John said, "Life is going to be a bit noisier for all of us, but I'm really looking forward to us being one big family." Arlene was closely monitored throughout her pregnancy because of risks associated with multiple births, such as premature delivery and preeclampsia. Arlene added, "Having quadruplets is a high-risk pregnancy, and at every scan I was really anxious that there wouldn't be 4 heartbeats. The midwifery team were absolutely amazing. They really supported me every step of the way. A dedicated team of 17 doctors and midwives delivered the quadruplets at Simpson Centre for Reproductive Health at the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh on May the 14th. Arlene, who is just 5'2", underwent a planned caesarean section when she was 30 weeks pregnant to reduce risks. Each baby had an individual team of 4 clinicians assigned to look after them as soon as they were welcomed into the world. At first, the boys were each given intensive care in the neonatal department to help stabilise their breathing and allow them to grow while they were tube-fed. 2 of the boys, Harrison and Rory, were then moved to the special care unit in St John's Hospital to be closer to their family before Ben and Noah joined them. Katie Ruggery, Associate Director of Midwifery, NHS Lothian, said, "Delivering quads is an extraordinary experience and I'm immensely proud of our entire midwifery and neonatal team for their dedication and expertise throughout this remarkable journey. This is the first set of quads delivered in Lothian and it's something the entire team will remember for the rest of their lives. The boys are now thriving and Arlene and John are preparing for the big move home." Arlene said, "Welcoming quads into the world has been an incredible and overwhelming experience. It's going to be a very different house and very probably much noisier, but we're so looking forward to taking our babies home." And there are several pictures to go with the story. One of Arlene before the birth with a very big baby bump. Then there is another picture of all the neonatal team, including the midwives, all gowned up, ready for action. There's also a photograph of Arlene with the 4 babies and another photograph of Arlene and her husband smiling happily with the babies.
Inspectors hail Burnhouse, and this article is by Debbie Hall. Burnhouse Skills Centre has received a positive report from inspectors at Education Scotland. The centre supports young people with a wide variety of additional support needs by removing barriers and using targeted interventions to enable them to succeed. The specialist staff work with young people in a variety of settings, including schools and West Lothian College. The inspection team found a number of strengths in the school, including whole school community involvement in improving the work of the school, and caring and supportive relationships across the school, leading to young people who feel safe when learning. Another strength was young people's involvement in exploring their well-being and being able to express views on their progress, including contributing to their next steps in learning. There was also a strong understanding of the needs of young people and their families. Senior leaders and staff provide equitable support to ensure that the cost of the school day is not a barrier to well-being or pupil participation in activities. The inspectors also noted a number of areas for improvement, and those have been discussed with the head teacher and West Lothian Council. These include continuing to improve the constituency of learning and teaching and ensuring all activities are motivating and well matched to the needs of young people. Staff should now improve the curriculum to ensure that they widen all young people's experiences, leading to better learning, and work towards improving young people's attendance to raise attainment across all areas of the curriculum. Head teacher Andrew Miller said, "We are really proud of our learners influencing positive change in our school and our caring and supportive culture across the school. We are working hard to make a difference to the most disadvantaged secondary-aged learners in West Lothian, and we are in a strong position to continue to improve, noted in our strengths." This year has been a challenging one, however. We have made a number of key improvements to address the areas for improvement, and we will continue to do so and move forward in the right direction for the young people of Burnhouse.
This next story is titled Innovation and Expertise at Food Event, and it's by Debbie Hall. Inspirational work on food growing in West Lothian took centre stage as more than 30 local organisations and specialists met to address the climate emergency's impact on how we eat. Gather and Grow was the first themed event hosted by West Lothian Climate Action Network Hub, WLCAN, and brought together participants from projects that tackle food poverty, health and social inequality, and experts who are mapping the region's land use and quality. The Earth-themed event at West Lothian College was attended by around 60 people, including representatives of community garden leaders and development trusts, charities and voluntary sector Gateway, West Lothian Council, food producers, business and health workers. Key themes revolved around efforts to ensure local communities have access to affordable, healthy food. Speakers include Catherine Payne from Sniffer, a charity focused on resilience and adaptation to climate change, and work documenting the weather's impact on crops. David Tatton from Growing Together explained how work by the project's partners in Craigshill is not only aimed at growing the freshest food for local residents, but using a community garden to help address physical, social and financial problems. Regional work on biodiversity was explained by Becky Plunkett from West Lothian Council's biodiversity team and Simon Kenton Lake from Nourish Scotland, focused on the charity's work on food policy and practice nationally. Neil Barnes, WLCAN Hub's senior development worker, said, "It really feels like there's a new and exciting momentum coming through in our region regarding food. As a new organisation, we feel privileged to be supporting a growing climate and food network, within a larger network membership. We're simply building on so much fantastic activity already in place in a number of local communities after their years of hard graft, involving many passionate workers and volunteers. Emphasising the need for more locally grown and plant-based food, a vegetarian lunch was provided by West Lothian Producers Market. Workshops later provided the opportunity for groups like West Lothian Food Network to examine complex financial accessibility issues, including how to reduce carbon footprint while helping those with problems getting enough food. Further workshops were hosted by West Lothian Health and Social Care Partnership, NHS Lothian and several community gardens, including those in Whitburn and West Calder Polbeth. Neil added, "This momentum we've managed to capture is one we hope we can lead to even greater levels of local and sustainable food growing activity, making our complex local food systems more resilient and lowering carbon emissions." And there's lots of photographs of ruddy-faced gardeners, Angela Constance, and representatives of all the interested parties.
This next article is entitled "Work is Underway on State-of-the-Art Homes" and is written by Stuart Somerville. Work on a new £9 million project to bring much-needed new homes for rent and young people in West Lothian has started. The Central Livingston development will provide 48 new homes close to shops and West Lothian College. And modular construction plans will mean faster delivery to alleviate pressure on council waiting lists. First tenants are expected to move in next September. The development will see West Lothian Council become one of the first councils in the country to use modular construction to build housing. Councillors on the executive approved the launch of works last week at the Ammonvale Crescent site behind the Tony Macaroni restaurant. David Baird, Estates Manager, told the meeting, "The project remains on course for completion on September 2025. Council leader Lawrence Fitzpatrick, chairing the meeting, said, "Could I commend the officers on the work they have done to date? The foot is on the accelerator here. It is very much needed for the group of young people that we are reaching out to assist." The proposals won planning permission earlier this year and the executive were given the construction timetable at their recent meeting. Plans for the supported housing for young people consist of 28 one-bed flats. Flexible office space will be provided for staff members along with staff overnight accommodation to provide dedicated space and privacy, while still being on hand to assist and support the young people in developing the skills they need to live and manage their home independently. The affordable housing element of the development will provide 20 homes consisting of 18 houses, a mix of 2 and 3 bed homes and 2 flats. Executive Councillor for Housing Services George Paul joined representatives from the Council and construction partners Hub South East and Modular Connect on a visit to the site earlier this year. Councillor Paul said, "It is recognised that there is a need to increase social housing options in Livingston, especially for young people. I was pleased to meet representatives from our construction partners during a visit to the site and look forward to working with them to deliver these new homes for Livingston." Speaking after the initial site visit, Richard Reid, the acting CEO of Connect Modular, said, "Connect Modular is delighted to be working in partnership with Hub South East and West Lothian Council on this high-profile affordable housing project in Livingston Town Centre. The project team has adopted our standard design house types for the family homes and we have been working collaboratively on bespoke modular designs for the 28 cottage flats that are set to provide supported accommodation for young people. We're excited to get construction underway in our factory in the coming months as our slick volumetric modular process promises to deliver the 49 new homes at speed. Modular construction holds immense potential to transform the provision of affordable housing in Scotland, and Contact Modular is proud to be leading the way with the support of progressive partners like West Lothian Council and Hub South East on this exciting new development." The article is accompanied by a photograph of Councillor George Paul with Senior Council Housing Department staff on the site behind Tony Macaroni restaurant.
This next item is headed "Delight at being up for an award" and is by Debbie Hall. A West Lothian company which promotes the benefits of children playing in the great outdoors has been shortlisted in the Grammys of Business Awards. Love Outdoor Learning is in the running for a prestigious Alicia Bank Great British Entrepreneur Award in the Purpose Entrepreneur of the Year category for Scotland. And the business is competing against fellow West Lothian companies Shine Books and Money Matrix. The Great British Entrepreneur Awards, often referred to as the Grammys of Entrepreneurship, celebrate the achievements of the UK's most dynamic and innovative businesses. Each year, the awards receive several thousands of applications, underscoring the competitive nature and high standard of the competition. This year's shortlist showcases a combined turnover of nearly £2.9 billion and employs approximately 20,000 people, highlighting the critical role these businesses play in driving economic growth and innovation. Love Outdoor Learning, run by Carol Murdoch, is recognised for its outstanding contributions to education. As a finalist, I'm absolutely thrilled and honoured to be nominated for this prestigious award. It is especially exciting to be recognised alongside two other outstanding local businesses. Their achievements and dedication inspire me, and I am proud to be part of such a vibrant and talented community. Previous winners of the award include founders of Brewdog, My Energy, Zilch, Grenade and ClearScore, who've gone on to become household names. The awards ceremony will take place on Monday the 18th of November at London's prestigious Grosvenor House, where winners for each category in each region will be announced. The event is the largest entrepreneurial celebration in the UK, providing a platform for businesses to connect, celebrate and champion the spirit of entrepreneurship. Francesca James, founder of the award, stated, "The calibre of entries this year is truly outstanding. These people are the backbone of our economy, and their stories are a testament to the incredible resilience and creativity of the UK's business community. We are thrilled to recognise their achievements and support their continued growth." Alicia Bank, the headline sponsor for this year's awards, shares her commitment to fostering entrepreneurial success. "It has been a real honour to sponsor these awards. Hearing the inspiring stories from the incredible businesses that these awards champion really brings to life the important contribution that British entrepreneurs make to our economy," said Conrad Ford, Chief Product and Strategy Officer at Alicia Bank. And there is a photograph of Carol outside, smiling happily and leaning on a moss-covered tree.
This article is about a break-in at Dobie's and is by Debbie Hall. Detectives at Livingston are appealing for information after a break-in and theft from Dobie's Garden Centre in Uphall. Around 11:20 p.m. on Monday the 24th of June, two people broke into the store and stole a quantity of alcohol from within. They left on foot and were last seen heading in the direction of the A899. The first suspect is a man who is described as around 6 feet tall and of slim build. He was wearing dark-coloured clothing and was carrying a Co-op bag for life. The second suspect is of slight build and was wearing black clothing. Detective Sergeant Lynn Miles said, "Our inquiries are ongoing to establish more details on this crime and the two people responsible, and we're appealing to anyone with information to contact us. We are studying the CCTV from in and around the local area, and we would ask anyone with personal footage or drivers in this area late on Monday night to check their footage and get in touch if it holds anything relevant. Anyone with any details is asked to contact 101, quoting reference number 0055 of the 25th of June. Alternatively, Crime Stoppers can be contacted on 0800 555 1111, where anonymity can be maintained.
Armadale by-election date set. Debbie Hall. A by-election for the Armadale and Blackridge ward on West Lothian Council will be held in late August. The vote follows the death of long-time councillor for the ward, Blackridge's councillor Stuart Borroman, last month. A by-election is proposed for Thursday, August the 22nd. The ward has two other members, Andrew Maguire, first elected for Labour in 2017 and now an independent councillor, and Linda Kenna of the SNP, elected in 2022. Councillor Borroman was one of the council's longest-serving members. He had held a seat in the ward from 2003 until his sudden death aged 71. Formerly, he represented the SNP before serving as an independent. He was re-elected in 2022 with 2,571 votes. Formal notification of the date will be published when the notice of election is published on Friday, July the 12th, and further information on the by-election will be provided at a later date.
This next article is by Debbie Hall. Probe after house was broken into. Detectives in West Lothian are hunting two men after a house was broken into in broad daylight. At around 5:50pm on Friday, June the 21st, two men gained entry to a property in Columbia Avenue in Howden. Nothing is believed to have been taken, however damage was done to the premises. The first man is described as approximately 5 foot 8 inches tall and of slim build. He was wearing all dark clothing with his hood up and a face mask. The second man is described as approximately 5 foot 7 inches tall, also of slim build. He was wearing grey bottoms, white top with his hood up, black jacket and a face mask. Detective Constable Natalie Civil said, "Our inquiries are ongoing and we're appealing to anyone that may have seen anything suspicious or who has any information to get in touch. We would also ask anyone with relevant CCTV, doorbell or dash cam recordings that may assist our inquiries to contact us. I would also like to take this opportunity to remind people to take all precautions available to ensure that their homes are as secure as possible before leaving and store all valuables out of sight. Please contact Police Scotland on 101 quoting incident 3081 of Friday, June the 21st, or alternatively Crime Stoppers can be contacted on 0800 555 111, where anonymity can be maintained."
And that brings us to the end of part 1. Welcome back to part 2. This week, as there are no intimations, we will continue with the general news. And this item is headed, "Sale of Livingston site will bring in almost £5 million. West Lothian Council is set to raise almost £5 million from the sale of a site in Livingston for housing. Councillors on the executive agreed to the sale of Cruden on the land near the toll roundabout at the northwest of the new town. Up to 77 homes could be built on the site, of which 19 would be affordable homes to let. In a report to the executive, David Baird, the property and estates manager, said, "The council owns 7 acres of land east of the toll roundabout in the Kirkton area of Livingston. The site is an allocated residential development site in the adopted West Lothian Local Development Plan, and it has been programmed by officers from Property Services for disposal during the 2024-25 financial year as part of the Council's Capital Receipts Programme. In accordance with the Council's approved surplus property procedure, officers openly marketed the site during the spring of 2024 and invited offers to purchase to a closing date on the 23rd of May 2024. A number of commercial offers were received at that closing date. There were no offers or expressions of interest received from the community at the closing date, and no community asset transfer requests have been received by the Council for this site. The offers received have been fully appraised by officers, and the offer received from Cruden Homes Limited for £4.9 million is considered to represent the best terms reasonably obtainable by the Council. The site falls within the catchment area for Peel Primary School, Howden St Andrews Primary School, Inveramond Community High School and St Margaret's Academy. However, any future development on the site would be subject to planning permission being sought and approved, and this takes into account important factors such as available school capacity.
This article is headed Housing Meeting. A number of council homes in West Lothian could be sold after the council agreed changes to its buyback policy. Councillors on the Housing Services Committee agreed proposals which could see homes which are the sole council property remaining in a block being sold on the open market. Money made from selling council homes would go into a pot to fund the buying of other homes. The proposals were backed by a meeting of the council's executive. The council said it was an idea that could have been implemented a long time ago, but would now see houses being sold weeks after the council had admitted to a council housing crisis. A report to committee said, in situations where the council is in minority ownership or where reaching an agreement with private owners regarding necessary repairs proves impossible and the property becomes void, the service would propose to designate the property as surplus to requirements and offer the property for sale on the open market once it naturally became vacant. The report added, the right to buy scheme has resulted in some tenements where the council owns only a small portion of the properties. This scenario can create difficulties when addressing essential repairs to common areas due to the involvement of private owners. The report detailed criteria both for the sale of council homes and the buyback. For the sale, these include: the council is in minority ownership within the tenement block, reaching an agreement with private owners regarding necessary repairs has proven unsuccessful, the property has naturally become void, funds received from any disposal would be reinvested into new supply. For the buyback, these include: the property for sale is in one of the highest demand areas in West Lothian. The purchase of the property would result in the council being the sole owner in a block. The purchase of the property would result in a long-term empty home brought back into use. Councillor Pauline Stafford asked, will this have any impact on the long-term capital programme if we have to wait for a long time for these properties to become naturally vacant? Marjorie Mackey, the Housing Strategy and Development Manager, said, no, we do have an active open market acquisition scheme in place where we are purchasing properties. It's part and parcel of asset management, whereby there's one flat in a large block. There wouldn't be any delay. Councillor Kirstine Sullivan asked, I'm taking it that it wouldn't be down any properties. When this was confirmed, she said, I think we have all probably had representatives from council tenants where work has been unable to be done because private owners haven't agreed.
Developers urged to fund health centres. Funding to help provide new healthcare facilities could be sought from housing developers under new planning rules. The change could break the deadlock facing communities across Scotland where thousands of people have trouble seeing a GP or accessing primary health care. While there is a national shortage of GPs, the main problem facing towns and villages in West Lothian is cramped and crumbling surgeries and health centres. West Lothian Council's Economy, Community Empowerment and Wealth Building Policy Development and Scrutiny Panel, PDSP, heard that planning officers are in early discussions with counterparts in NHS Lothian, looking at ways to take new policies forward. A council spokesman confirmed that the council has no powers to seek developer funding, but could have under a new local development plan as part of the new national planning framework known as NPF4. The spokesman said, as part of the preparation for the next local development plan, the council is examining the potential for seeking contributions from developers towards healthcare infrastructure, primarily primary care infrastructure. The council continues to work with NHS Lothian to demonstrate a robust evidence base to secure developer funding for primary care infrastructure investment. Currently, there is no mechanism to allow the council to seek developer contributions for health services. Such contributions could come on top of the existing Section 75 contributions, which pay for education facilities and roads infrastructure on the back of a new housing development. A recent example is a £9 million extension to West Calder High School, which is being paid for by a developer funding. A report to the PDSP said, National Planning Framework 4, NPF4, requires planning authorities to address the following matters relating to health: tackling health inequalities, particularly in places which are experiencing the most disadvantage, identifying the health and social care services and infrastructure needed in the local authority area, and create healthier places. One councillor had already suggested seeking developer funding to solve the problem at East Calder, which has seen a 20-year campaign for an improved healthcare centre. The problem there has been exacerbated in the village because of the huge core development area housing site at Calder Wood, which will double the size of the village.
This next article is entitled Gwen Had to Tidy Up Graveyard. A bereaved West Lothian parent was forced to hire a strimmer to tackle the state of a graveyard where her son is buried. Overgrown grass and wild weeds at Abernight Churchyard in Perthshire have been slammed as a distressing sight. Gwen Tilbury said she was in disbelief when she visited the grave of her son Richard Macready, 28, who was killed in a road traffic accident in 2009. Gwen, who stays in West Lothian, said, "We would dread our bereaved families being faced with this distressing sight." Last week, Gwen, 64, decided to take matters into her own hands. She said, "I actually hired a petrol strimmer. It was that bad. It was just absolutely shocking. I'd gone up about 3 weeks previously and it was bad, really bad. I'd gone up with a friend and he said, 'I've never seen anything like this for a graveyard.' I did what I could to try and get in. Even to be walking to the grave, you could be walking on other people's gravestones because you can't see anything." Perth and Kinross Council said grass had been left uncut in cemeteries due to staffing pressures that is now seeking to resolve. It apologised for any upset caused to mourners and pledged to ensure cemeteries are maintained more regularly as intended. Gwen, who's a funeral arranger, fears that when council teams eventually cut the grass at the graveyard, they're going to damage the stones. She added, "They can't even see where their machines are going because it's so bad." She also worries visitors to Abernight Cemetery would be injured tripping over a gravestone. She said, "There are people coming back and forward on a weekly basis. It's a health and safety issue. It's just awful. You can't see where you're going at all." Perth and Kinross Council charges £1,000 for a full adult lair and £1,043 for a burial. On top of that, families pay a considerable amount for a headstone. Gwen said, "People paid a lot of money for that ground and the stones that are on it. There is absolutely no way that these stones will remain undamaged with this situation. If you're selling the ground for the price you're selling it and people are spending thousands on a stone, it needs to be protected." Perth and Kinross Council explained that due to staffing pressures it had been unable to do fortnightly grass cutting and monthly trimming at cemeteries as normal. A Perth and Kinross Council spokesperson said, "We apologise for any upset that mourners visiting council-maintained cemeteries may have felt. As we have advised, recent warmer, wetter weather conditions have led to additional growth of vegetation, and together with current staffing pressures, we have not been able to progress grass-cutting works as normal. which for cemeteries we maintain is scheduled as a fortnightly grass cutting and monthly strimming around headstones. We're working to resolve the situation at present to ensure cemeteries are maintained as intended. And this is accompanied by a photograph of Gwen Tilbury and the overgrown graveyard.
This next item is one of several galleries that were reported in the paper. This one is from Winchborough, and it's headed Feast of Floats to take to Streets. The growing town of Winchborough enjoyed a fantastic gala day at the weekend. Residents new and old were treated to a feast of floats in the parade, some fantastic entertainment and much more. And of course, one of the highlights of the day was the crowning of this year's Queen, Katrina Brodie, as her champion Ollie Lusted looked on. And there are several photographs of the gala day, the main one being of the Queen, Katrina, looking resplendent in a purple sceptre, purple cape and purple crown. There are two separate brass bands who look as if they're marching beautifully in step. And the final picture is some of the fancy dress. I recognise the Teletubby and Buzz Lightyear.
Pupils will get the extra help that they need. And this article is by Stuart Somerville. Growing numbers of children in West Lothian have been identified with additional support needs, ASN, as the council was praised for the help it provided. Across primary schools in the region, 31% of pupils have ASN, and in high schools it is 46%. The figures have risen by 10% in the last 5 years. They cover a broad spectrum of needs and present the council with higher demands and greater parental expectation. Service manager Christina McSween told a meeting of West Lothian Council's Performance Committee the service is facing significant pressures and growing demand on resources due to an increased number of pupils with additional support needs. It came as councillors heard that the partnership and multi-service approach in the region has made it a front-runner in local authorities in providing inclusive education. Recent surveys of head teachers and families returned overwhelmingly positive responses to the work of the service within schools and with parents and families. A survey showed positive responses in excess of 90% from schools and families. This has seen a drop in placement appeals and tribunals and a service more centred on pupil needs. That recognition of the breadth of support offered has seen the council drop the term additional support needs in favour of additional support needs. West Lothian has led other authorities with a presumption in favour of mainstream education for the last 19 years to bring children into schools to help build peer relationships as part of their education. This is done through additional work and staffing in schools and extra help through ASN staff. Mrs McSween told councillors that schools worked hard to develop inclusivity in daily life. The programme is very family focused, with the emphasis on doing what was right for each individual child. She said, "When it's right, and when it's not, we know that too. We need to make sure we give every opportunity to a child. It is challenging, but we are here to support the child." Councillor Tony Boyle asked, are there any other local authorities starting to follow the West Lothian example? Mrs McSween said there had been reach out from several local authorities. Inter-service links between local authorities also exists. A report to the Performance Committee said that as a result of growing numbers of children and young people being assessed with ASN, the services has expanded significantly over this period, building capacity and broader skills and expertise in order to meet the needs of families in West Lothian.
As a new report from Charity Alzheimer's Scotland reveals that people with advanced dementia are facing care bills of thousands of pounds a week, we meet two Scottish women whose lives have been impacted by the progressive illness in very different ways. This article is by Nikki Tennant and it's titled Super Gran Returns. She's walked across burning coals, jumped out of a plane, abseiled from the fourth rail bridge and glided across the Clyde on a zip wire. Even at the age of 83, it seems there's no stunt daring enough to rattle Scots supergran Barbara Barnes in her quest to draw attention to the progressive illness that's gradually robbed her of both her parents. Since losing her 84-year-old dad to dementia in 1984, retired primary school teacher Barbara has been a tireless fundraiser and volunteer for the charity now known as Alzheimer's Scotland. As long as she remains fit and able, the daredevil Gran of 4 pledges to continue to take the plunge in every sense in her mission to raise awareness of dementia and add to the thousands of pounds her challenges have raised for the charity over a remarkable 4 decades. It was after her parents, Ernest and Rosaline Dickens, had returned to their native Yorkshire from Dumbarton, where their only child was born, that Barbara began to detect a decline in her dad's health. An eminent engineer, Ernest had worked in England's shipyards and was the manager of Dumbarton's aircraft factory and even supervised the building of Ethiopia's iconic palace of Haile Selassie. When Barbara and her husband travelled to Yorkshire for monthly visits, they watched the animated, vibrant personality that has always characterised her father ebbing away. Her regular phone calls confused him, and he'd ask, "Who is this? Who's talking?" He was a very clever man. It was just so sad to see his decline, remembers Barbara, whose dad's work dominates a page of the book The Blackburn, Dumbarton's Aircraft Factory, written by Alan M. Sherry. He became very quiet. He just sat there. My mum would get cross with him, so we brought them back here to live with us. Within only 2 months of Ernest's admission to Glasgow Royal Infirmary, Barbara's mum, at the age of 82, received her own diagnosis of dementia. She started doing strange things and would get angry when I was leaving the house to go to work, explained Barbara of Ballach. How she reacted to the illness was totally different from my dad. A nurse came in the mornings when I was out teaching, and she would ask repeatedly why I was doing this. She eventually went into a care home in Helensburgh. When she was in there, the staff were her family. She didn't have a clue who I was when I turned up. She died at the age of 86. In 1997, when Barbara was 57, she completed a sponsored walk for Alzheimer's Scotland, a fundraiser she repeated the following year. At the age of 60, she did a zip slide from Glasgow's iconic Finnieston Crane, a feat she performed again 11 years later. In 2003, a 63-year-old Barbara leapt from an aircraft in a heroic skydive, and a year later she abseiled from the fourth rail bridge, all in aid of Alzheimer's Scotland. St Enoch's Square in Glasgow was the venue for her 2006 fire walk, and 4 years later she surpassed herself in a walk of a very different kind, wing walking on the wings of a plane in flight over Cirencester to mark her 70th birthday. It remains her most exhilarating and memorable challenge yet. Following another fourth rail bridge abseil in 2016, Barbara this year paired up with her son Gordon to enjoy captivating views over central Scotland's canals and waterways in a 100-foot abseil from the engineering marvel, the Falkirk Wheel. In addition to her challenges in aid of Alzheimer's Scotland, Barbara sings with the Dumbarton-based Every Voice Choir run by the Charity for People Living with Dementia and for their carers. Music is something a person with dementia can relate to, explained widow Barbara, who is part of the Health and Social Care Partnership and a member of the Dementia Strategy Group. My mother was never a churchgoer in her life, but when Songs of Praise came on, she'd be singing all the hymns. When she retired after a teaching career that spanned 27 years, Barbara compiled a resource pack for teachers entitled Creating a Dementia-Friendly Community. She toured schools, giving talks to P7 pupils about the illness. Offering guidance to children who may have a grandparent who is affected, she was accompanied by a man who would answer pupils' questions about what it's like to live with dementia. Dementia is so much more upfront nowadays, Barbara continued. They are concentrating a lot on brain health now. It's all moved on tremendously. But there is still a lot to do, but at least it's moving forward rather than backwards.
And that brings us to the end of part 2. Welcome back to part 3. We'll begin with an item on Alzheimer's and then we will continue with the quiz.
Alzheimer's charity is striving to give Margaret a dynamic new lease of life. Another woman who devotes much of her time to Alzheimer's Scotland is Margaret McCallion, who was only 51 when her fading memory led to a shock diagnosis of frontotemporal dementia, FTD. The nerve cell damage caused by FTD leads to loss of function in the brain's frontal lobes, which invariably causes deterioration in behaviour, personality and/or difficulty with producing or comprehending language. Not to blow my own trumpet, but I've always had an excellent memory before and I was good at multitasking, explained Margaret, who lives in North Glasgow. I was involved in lots of things from amateur dramatics to hill walking and singing. After many years of working full-time as a public sector administrator, Margaret began noticing that her memory wasn't quite right and was encouraged by her sister to consult her GP, who referred her to neuropsychology. I had lots of scans, but it was a lumbar puncture that confirmed I had frontotemporal dementia, she explained. I was only 51 and it came as a real shock. I still felt young. Up until that point in my life, if something was broken, I'd get it fixed and move on, but this was a totally different situation. When Margaret began showing symptoms, her employer told her to collect her belongings and go home, as she wouldn't be able to work any longer. They paid me for about 6 months until I got my formal diagnosis, but it was a really difficult time, said Margaret, who also had to navigate the minefield of arranging for her pension through the DWP. I wanted to know more about my condition so that I could deal with it. The kind of dementia I have was only recently discovered and it doesn't have its own name. It's caused by the mutation of a gene that's also linked to motor neuron disease. It took me a few months to come to terms with it all, but I eventually gave myself a talking to, took myself into Glasgow for some retail therapy and felt a lot better. Through her consultant, Margaret was introduced to Alzheimer's Scotland Resource Centre in the city's Bridgeton, where she was matched with a helpful link worker. I loved going to the Alzheimer's Scotland cafe and was so pleasantly surprised at the supportive environment, enthused Margaret, now aged 59. Nobody's sitting around talking about the type of dementia they have, they just enjoy being together. I got involved with the charity's Scottish Dementia Working Group, which has been phenomenal. Initially, I was probably a bit quieter because I wasn't sure what to expect. And the public perception of dementia is that you're finished and you can't do anything. But I soon found my voice. It's been a busy time, but it's really been empowering and I can be as involved as I want to be. I like that you're learning as well as contributing, and it's great to see the improvements we've made. Just recently, a few of us went to Glasgow City College to speak to students who are working in dementia care, and the lecturer told us she would be incorporating what we said into her teaching. It was really nice to hear that. Keen to remain active, Margaret attends a weekly exercise class at the charity's Oxford Street Centre, and thanks to her Christian faith and the support of family and friends, she has found the strength and purpose to live well with dementia. As a mezzo-soprano, she gets pleasure from her love of singing, and she has taken part in resource centre pilot groups, including art therapy, which taught her how to work with clay. She is also heavily involved in the European Working Group, which has opened up a new world of international travel and friendships. When you get a diagnosis of whatever type of dementia, it's not the end, she insists. Maybe you'll need to make slight adjustments in life, but you can still enjoy whatever you always enjoyed before and so much more. For more information, visit www.alzsscot.org or call the 24-hour free phone dementia helpline on 0808 808 3000. And the article is accompanied by a couple of pictures of Margaret enjoying herself in the Alzheimer's Cafe.
And now the quiz. Right, 10 questions coming up. Brains engaged. On we go. Number 1. Of which country was Archbishop Macarius president? A. Turkey. B. Greece. C. Cyprus. Number 2. In which part of the body are the humerus, radius and ulna found? A. The arm. B. The leg. C. The ear. Number 3. What name for a traitor is derived from a Norwegian army officer who collaborated with the Nazis? A. Vidkun Quisling. B. Quisling. C. Benedict Arnold. Number 4. Which widely cultivated cereal grass is also called Indian corn? A. Maize. B. Rice. C. Wheat. Number 5. Which city is the administrative centre of Norfolk? A. Norwich. B. Cambridge. C. Oxford. Number 6. How many humps does a Bactrian camel have? A. 3. B. 2. C. 1. Number 7. Which Russian pianist, composer and conductor wrote a famous rhapsody on a theme of Paganini? A. Igor Stravinsky. B. Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky. C. Sergei Rachmaninoff. Number 8. What is the best known novel by Thomas Hughes? A. Tom Brown's School Days. B. Great Expectations. C. David Copperfield. Number 9. What name is given to the proportion of water vapour in the atmosphere? A. Humidity. B. Condensation. C. Evaporation. And number 10, the last one. Which light volcanic rock derived from acidic lava is used as an abrasive? A. Obsidian. B. Basalt. C. Pumice. Good luck with those ones. And now we continue with the general news. And this item is headed Huge Drop in Blue Light Fire Callouts and is by Stuart Somerville. Changes to the way the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service handle automatic fire alarms has a huge 69% drop in the number of blue light call-outs for fire crews in West Lothian over last year. Year-end figures reinforce monthly drops reported across all wards of the council area since the introduction of a new rule in July 2023. Fire officers told councillors last week they would continue to engage with premises and duty holders to bring down further the number of false alarms. The Scottish Fire Service produced figures for the unwanted fire alarm signals known as UFAs at the latest meeting of the Public and Community Safety Policy Development and Scrutiny Panel. The figures show dramatic falls across West Lothian over the last 4 years. The number of UFAs in 2019-20 county-wide was 1,005, and in 2023-24 it was 434. A senior fire officer told the meeting there were 66 calls in quarter 4 of last year, which was a reduction of a huge 69% on the equivalent period for the year before. A report to councillors said there was an increase of 12 incidents when compared to Q3 2023-24, and a significant decrease of 149 incidents, 56%, compared to Q4 2022-23. The per 10,000 population trend line over the previous 5 years shows that West Lothian area to be comparable with the Scottish average and slightly higher than a comparable local authority. The wards with highest call-out figures have seen the most dramatic drops over the same 2019-20 to 23-24 period. Broxburn-up-Hall and Winchborough down from 76 to 59, Livingston South down from 288 to 125, and Whitburn and Blackburn down from 138 to 60. The fire service changed its policy in July last year in a bid to cut the risk of 2 appliances attending under blue light road conditions, that is, travelling at speed in response to all automatic alarms. Now, for most commercial premises, fire control officers make follow-up calls to key holders before sending out crews. It also saves the fire service each false call-out costing almost £2,000 and frees up time for crew training and public engagement. The change means that such a response will only be made to buildings with sleeping risk, including hospitals, care homes and student accommodation. The majority of false alarms in the last year were at these types of premises. Common causes of this are human error, 39%, fault in system, 19%, contaminants, 16%. In his report, Divisional Commander Willie Pollard said, "A reduction in UFA incidents has many benefits, namely reducing road risk, reducing fire service carbon footprint, and increasing business continuity." UFA incidents fall into a range of categories that include malicious, failure of equipment, and good intent. The fire service have developed a UFA policy to ensure that persistent UFA incidents within premises are addressed appropriately. Engagement with key holders is paramount to reducing the fire service attendance. We have programmed engagement sessions with duty holders and alarm providers to discuss solutions to UFAs. The fire service have a robust UFA policy and analyse trends and engage appropriately with duty holders of relevant premises. We aim to reduce UFAs in West Lothian by 5% per year, which contributes towards the fire service target for reducing the number of UFA incidents attended in non-domestic premises.
New bank hubs are set for towns. People in Bathgate and Linlithgow will soon find it easier to access banking services thanks to a recommendation for new banking hubs in the towns. LINK, the UK's cash access and ATM network, has announced that locals and businesses in both towns will benefit from a new banking hub as part of a wider commitment to protect access to cash. Banking hubs are a shared banking space similar to a traditional bank branch but available to everyone. The hub will consist of a counter service operated by post office employees where customers of any bank can withdraw and deposit cash, make bill payments and carry out regular banking transactions. In addition, there will be private spaces where customers can speak to community bankers from their own bank for more complicated matters that require specialist knowledge or privacy. The banks will be working on a rotating basis, so there will be staff from different banks available on different days. To date, LINK has recommended 146 banking hubs, including 21 in Scotland. There are currently 60 banking hubs up and running in the UK. The banking hub will now be delivered by Cash Access UK. Over the next weeks, it will begin to engage with the local community and will start to look for potential sites. The hub will likely open in 12 months' time. Chris Ashton, Chief Commercial Officer, Link, said, "We are pleased to recommend these new hubs in Bathgate and Linlithgow. Many people locally still need cash, and this hub will play a crucial role in helping them access it on the high street. We are determined to make sure that, as we all choose new ways to pay, people who use cash in places like Bathgate have the benefit of a convenient, accessible location to access and deposit cash on the high street."
New teachers. are all set. Good luck to the 109 probationary teachers who will join West Lothian schools this August. They attended an induction session last week at Winchborough Academy. Dr. Elaine Cook, the Council's Deputy Chief Executive, attended their induction. She said, "It has been many years since I was a probationary teacher, but I do remember the excitement of my first year in the classroom. I loved my time in the classroom, and it is a privilege to be a teacher. I am sure that our new intake will enjoy their probationary year, as we have fantastic schools in West Lothian. I'd like to wish all of our probationers the warmest of welcomes and the very best of luck for the year ahead." And there's a nice photograph of all the young, smiley probationary teachers ready to face the fray.
This next article is by Stuart Somerville and it's entitled "It's the busiest time of year for the school bank." As schools close their doors for the summer holidays, a West Lothian charity is gearing up for its busiest season. The new school year will bring additional demands as families face the cost of kitting their kids out with school uniforms. While the holidays are a time of excitement for many families, for many more, it's a time of anxiety. A full basic school uniform costs around £140. The School Bank, a Livingston-based charity, expects more than 1,000 referrals of families needing help with the costs of providing uniforms for the new term. It is a volunteer-led group aiming to improve the lives of children and families in West Lothian experiencing financial hardship by providing them with a brand new school uniform and other equipment. Over the past 8 years, the charity has supported over 8,000 families facing financial hardship, providing new uniforms, jackets, shoes and school bags. Project manager Colette Moran said, "This summer we are bracing ourselves as we expect to receive around 1,000 referrals for uniform packs for children returning to school in August." School Bank collaborates with various community professionals such as schools, charities, social services, Women's Aid and the Advice Shop, who have referred over 2,000 young people in the past year alone. Demand is rising every year. Colette told us, "Our packs are more than just a bag of clothes. Our packs combat low self-esteem and exclusion, can significantly reduce the risk of bullying and improve school attendance by providing items that allow children to take part in activities they previously were unable to." She added, "Demand is rising steeply as more families are feeling the effects of rising costs. That's why we launched a school uniform donation appeal last month, asking the community for donations of new and gently used uniforms." Most local schools operate their own school banks, providing uniform items such as blouses, shirts, winter coats. The West Lothian charity not only provides clothing packs from cash and clothing donations, it also acts as a parental champion in the campaign for practical and affordable uniforms. The charity strives to make uniforms affordable. Some schools demand specific, hard-to-find colours for polo shirts or school shirts. Others require expensive PE kits, which can only come from specific suppliers with a hefty price tag. One local primary's parent council voted to incorporate a kilt. As Colette pointed out, the kilt costs £14, which some can afford but others cannot, so they have to rely on the alternative of a grey skirt. "We're immediately taking away the point of the uniform," said Colette. For Colette, the key questions for a uniform are, can I buy it on the high street and is it comfortable? Some schools have rigid and old-fashioned rules such as a ban on leggings or short-sleeve shirts and blouses, a demand for badges on sweaters and polo shirts, or a rule for blazers. According to Colette, all of these things work to create barriers for families, many of whom have to find the uniform costs for 2 or more children. There are also mixed messages from the schools of what is acceptable and what isn't, which can confuse teenagers in high school and their parents. A glance at social media each August brings you a host of home you go posts with pictures of miserable teens sent home for the wrong shoes or wrong hairstyles. At its heart lies the divisive nature of the demand of uniform and its impact on young people who are developing their personalities. It also hammers home the financial inequalities a growing number of families face. A West Lothian Council spokesperson said, "Over 90% of the schools currently have a pre-loved uniform bank as part of our work to reduce the cost of the school day. Where schools do not have a uniform bank run directly by the school, they often have arrangements with their Parent Staff Association, PSA, or local church, for example. There has been a move in some schools from the provision of outer uniform garments only to include PE kit, footwear, underwear and personal care products. Party clothes, Halloween costumes and Christmas jumpers are also provided in some schools. Schools are increasingly considering how and where garments can be easily or freely accessed by children, young people, parents and carers, in order to remove barriers and reduce stigma. Most schools offer pre-loved items at no cost, with some offering the option of a discretionary donation. In a few schools, they have had an associated cost which would typically be around £1 per item. The majority of school uniform banks run daily. Some schools have a small stock of new uniform items which they will allocate in a targeted way according to need. Schools are improving communication methods to highlight the support they can offer in relation to uniform. For example, including standing items in school newsletters and in some instances including a QR code that enables parents and carers to access support in a discreet manner. Schools have been asked to promote the school clothing grant to their school communities, and the school bank West Lothian has been actively promoted as a source of additional support. All schools are undertaking action to mitigate the cost of the school day based on the needs identified through consultation with their school communities. And the article is accompanied by a couple of pictures, one of Kristen Smelt, chair of the School Bank West Lothian, with project manager Colette Moran, and another of 3 project workers helping out distribute some of the uniforms.
And continuing the theme of school banks, here's what you can do to help your school bank. There is a website if you need further details for any of the items we're going to read. The website is schoolbank/westlothian.org. Here are several ways in which you can help West Lothian School Bank charity this summer. A. Sponsor a child and buy a uniform. A named child will receive a pack with typically 3 to 6 items. After purchasing the items, drop them off and a delivery will be arranged. Fill a bag with vital school supplies. This includes socks, tights, pencil case, stationery and a water bottle. After you've packed your bag, you could use a school bag or a drawstring gym bag. Simply drop it off at one of the numerous red drop-off points across West Lothian, conveniently situated in various supermarkets and community establishments. Make a donation. Donate to the School Bank West Lothian and items will be bought on your behalf. For example, £18 could buy a 5-pack of white shirts for a teenager. £45 would buy a pair of school shoes and a jacket. The estimated cost of a full school uniform is £140, although all donations are gratefully accepted. Recycle uniforms. Good quality, pre-loved uniforms are welcome that still have plenty of life in them, including jackets, except items with school badges, blazers or kilts. Items can be dropped off in one of our red drop-off points across West Lothian. For further details, and here's that website again, schoolbank/westlothian.org.
This article is headed Winchborough Bridge. Town is travelling in right direction, and it's by Debbie Hall. A new bridge that will cut journeys for residents in Scotland's fastest growing town has been officially opened. Winchborough locals joined designers, consultants, West Lothian Council and Network Rail to watch John Hamilton, CEO of Winchborough Development Limited, mark the opening of the bridge over the Glasgow to Edinburgh rail line on the Core Road that now runs through the heart of the expanding community. The bridge directly connects the B8020 at Beatley Road in the east near the new M8 motorway junction with the new town centre and the flagship Sainsbury's supermarket onto the 3 school education campus in the west. The new bridge will relieve pressure on the existing main street within the village and will create shorter journeys within Winchborough. John Hamilton said the opening of the bridge connection today is a key element to one of the country's biggest placemaking projects, and the opening will allow many other developments in Winchborough, such as employment uses and developments of the town centre, to continue with the requisite infrastructure in place. We have committed to working in this way, with infrastructure developed first, because we use a placemaking approach, meaning there is more than new houses to enjoy when residents move in. We are grateful to our contractors R.J. MacLeod, I&H Brown and Storey for their hard work, and to the community for their support while the agreements to open the rail bridge over the road was finalised. Lawrence Fitzpatrick, leader of West Lothian Council, said, "Winchborough is a core development area in West Lothian and the transformation in the village is incredible. The road is an important part of the new infrastructure and we are delighted that it is open." And there's a picture of people standing on one side of the red tape, all waving, waiting for the tape to be cut.
And that brings us to the end of part 3. Welcome back to part 4. We will start with the answers to the quiz and then continue with the news. Right, how did you do? Number 1. Of which country was Archbishop Macarius president? And the answer is C, Cyprus. Number 2. In which part of the body are the humerus, radius and ulna found? The answer is A, the arm. Number 3. What's the name for a traitor is derived from a Norwegian army officer who collaborated with the Nazis? And the answer is A, Vidkun Quisling. Number 4. Which widely used cultivated cereal grass is also called Indian corn? The answer is A, maize. Number 5. Which city is the administrative centre of Norfolk? And the answer is A, Norwich. Number 6. How many humps does a back-trained camel have? And the answer is no, not 3. The answer is B, 2. Number 7. Which Russian pianist, composer and conductor wrote a famous rhapsody on a theme of Paganini? And the answer is C, Sergei Rachmaninoff. Number 8. What is the best-known novel by Thomas Hughes? And the answer is A, Tom Brown's School Days. Number 9. What name is given to the proportion of water vapour in the atmosphere? And the answer is A, humidity. And number 10. Which light volcanic rock derived from acidic lava is used as an abrasive? And the answer is C, pumice. And we now continue with the news.
This article is by Stuart Somerville and it's titled "Facing a Stark Financial Crisis." Scotland's local authorities are facing an unprecedented financial crisis, councillors heard this week. The council's finance chief said the circumstances were stark and severe changes would have to be made to services provided in West Lothian. The future will look very different, warned Patrick Welsh after speaking to councillors on the audit committee. West Lothian Council's latest budget update, issued last week, confirmed that more savings measures will have to be agreed if the funding being given to councils remains significantly less than is needed. The council is required by law to provide a balanced revenue budget each year. Insufficient Scottish Government funding, combined with increasing costs, means the council has a budget gap of £16.6 million for 24-25 and a gap of £38 million from 24-25 to 2027-2028. By 2028, the council will have had to make budget cuts of almost £200 million, starting in 2007. The vast majority of the council's budget is provided by the Scottish Government, over 80%, with council tax making up less than 19% of the council's budget. The council tax freeze, announced by the Scottish Government earlier this year, resulted in a further £1.4 million of budget savings required in West Lothian in 2024-25, as it was not fully funded by the government. The council is facing significant cost pressures due to the increasing costs associated with growing demands and inflation, especially across key areas. The highest cost pressures are in these services: homelessness, residential school placements, increasing social care costs due to increasing elderly population, fleet and vehicle costs, school transport costs, especially additional support needs, medical and mainstream transport. There is great uncertainty and risk around future funding across local government. Current public spending plans are widely acknowledged to result in cuts to unprotected budgets, with the Institute of Fiscal Studies believing that a reasonable estimate is that local government budgets faced cuts of between 1.9% and 3.5% per year. Patrick Welsh, the Council's interim Head of Finance and Property Services, said, "The situation is stark, and it is important to be very upfront and honest with local residents. Unless something drastic changes and we are given significant increase in funding, more severe changes to services will have to be made." Having made over £0.2 billion of savings already, the options available to councils are now becoming increasingly difficult choices. To put it bluntly, it may be the case that some services that we are accustomed to council providing are no longer provided at all, or at best will look and operate very different in the future. The growing financial crisis facing councils is of a magnitude never experienced before. Interventions such as the Verity House Agreement have not supported local discretion and flexibility with the ring-fencing of resources. It is important to recognise that based on these circumstances, it is not an option for the Council to continue to deliver all the existing services as they are currently provided. The Council must make savings and/or agree to additional sources of income to enable us to set a balanced budget. As well as the legal duty placed on the Council, it is important to understand that savings in some areas of service delivery are necessary to ensure that the Council can continue to meet the costs and deliver the most critical services the community depends upon, such as education and social care, where annual cost increases are simply not matched by annual grant funding increases. We need to focus on delivering critical services and reduce spending in all other areas, which will be extremely difficult for us and the communities we serve. If we don't, and we don't reduce spending in some areas, we will not be able to deliver the most critical services such as education and social care. It is in this increasingly challenging financial context that the Council has agreed for officers to undertake a review of the Council's operating model to ensure it aligns with agreed priorities and statutory obligations, whilst all the while identifying savings. It has further been agreed that additional savings measures for the remaining years of the revenue budget strategy should be subject to public consultation, and that a consultation with the public will take place in the spring of 2025 on Council priorities and identified savings options. Council officers are considering options to balance the budget gap and identify additional budget savings for 2025-26 up to 2027-28. The Scottish Government funding for West Lothian will become clear at the end of this year of new budget decisions in the opening months of 2025.
This next article is entitled "System is Failing to Meet Needs of a Community." A major report published this month by charity Alzheimer's Scotland reveals a fragmented, crisis-prone system that is failing to meet the long-term care needs of people with advanced dementia. It highlights how a lack of national and local strategic commissioning and planning has left the residential care home system largely in the hands of the open market. And as financial pressures build, provision in many areas is now at risk of collapse. The report finds that the current approach also stifles the development of innovative, community-based long-term care models, forcing a one-size-fits-all approach that does not cater to the diverse needs or wishes of people with dementia. It also highlights that many people in Scotland believe that care is free, which is not true. Many people, particularly those with advanced dementia, face care bills of thousands of pounds each week. Alzheimer's Scotland believes people with advanced dementia should receive free long-term care, as they would if they had any other form of terminal illness. Henry Simmons, Alzheimer's Scotland's chief executive, said, "Long-term residential care for people with dementia has been largely developed through an open market approach with no meaningful local plans or strategy. This has led to a financially driven sector that is in a critical state and in some areas at risk of collapse. We need an urgent and coherent assessment of local current and future needs, and we need to plan and design services that can meet these needs going forward. The Scottish Government must work closely with local health and social care partnerships to develop a strategy that will lead us through the crisis and prepare for growing future demands. We also need to design and commission services that people want. Further investment is needed to create more innovative, person-centred approaches to long-term care. The reliance that we have had on one model of residential care must be challenged. We need to listen to the voices of people living with dementia now, engage local communities, and ensure that we build meaningful, high-quality, long-term care services across Scotland. Added to this are the inequalities that people with advanced forms of dementia are facing in terms of the inordinate cost of care. Even people who are in the terminal stages of advanced dementia are having to pay between £1,200 and £2,000 per week for care which should be free if they had any other form of terminal illness. Many thousands of people face this inequality because they are deemed to have a moderate estate, but this should not be the issue. This is never considered in any other part of our healthcare system, and we desperately need to bring this to an end, this inequality and unfairness. A fiscal challenge is not a good enough excuse for the Scottish Government to continue to allow this inequity to exist. It must end, and people with advanced dementia deserve much more personalised long-term care options that reflect what they want and need, not what the budget ceiling dictates. They deserve what is right and what is fair. We urge the Scottish Government to implement all of the recommendations in this report as a matter of urgency and deliver fairness, equality and the best possible long-term care to one of our most vulnerable communities in Scotland. An estimated 90,000 people are currently living with dementia in Scotland, with around 19,000 of those living in one of the country's 1,000 care homes. The number of people aged over 65 with dementia in Scotland is predicted to increase by 50% over the next 2 decades. Official government estimates suggest as many as 1 in 3 people born today could go on to develop the condition.
This next item is headed Plans to Improve 6 Roads. 6 safer road projects are set to be decided. Road officers have recommended works on accident black spots throughout the region, with most seeing low speed limits imposed. A total of £230,000 money from Transport Scotland, the National Transport Agency, has been set aside for the job. The work is part of the annual Accident Investigation and Prevention Casualty Reduction Programme, AIP, which looks to cut the number of road deaths and casualties. Work already carried out on West Lothian roads has seen a 57% reduction in the number of road accidents resulting in slight injury, and a 26% reduction in the number of serious accidents. The sites include the main A70 Lang Wang on the southern border of West Lothian, and the B7008 that connects that road to West Calder and Livingston. This narrow and winding road has been the scene of several accidents in recent months, many in the village of Harburn, around the bridge over the railway line. Officers recommend £20,000 spend, reducing the speed limit from 60 miles per hour to 50, new signing and road lining along the route. Other areas that will see work include the creation of traffic islands and traffic calming measures, as well as the introduction of anti-skid surfacing. 6 sites have been recommended as providing the best value for money. They include the B8020 Winchborough to Broxburn, St Andrews Drive up Hall, the A871 at Polbeth, and the railway bridge at Station Road in Armadale. Many sites will see the speed limits extended as well as resurfacing. The cost of each project ranges from $20,000 to $70,000, with the work being carried out this financial year. Roads Manager Gordon Brown added that the major improvement work to a dangerous junction at the Avon Gorge is set to be completed this week.
Plea as neighbours demand blitz on speeding drivers, and this is by Stuart Somerville. Neighbours in a Livingston street have raised a petition demanding action against speeding drivers after a series of accidents culminated in a pet dog being killed. The dog's owner, Roddy Hill, told councillors at a meeting of West Lothian Council's executive that the driver had stopped after hitting the dog and shouted at him before speeding off. And he said he feared for the safety of youngsters who played in the area. "I don't want to see a hearse with a wee coffin in it," he said. Mr Hill and his neighbours, L.V. Johnson, presented a petition to the council asking for safety measures in Glen Crescent in Deans, Livingston, a narrow residential road clearly marked at each with green ringed 20 miles per hour signs. The death of Mr Hill's dog Milo in April came after a series of incidents where neighbours had their cars shunted by passing motorists as they tried to reverse out of their driveways. Another has had her garden wall demolished twice by a speeding vehicle. Miss Johnson told the executive that many young families now live in the area, with children of nursery and primary age going to nearby schools. The street has also become far busier with the growing use of delivery vans. Glen Road has speed bumps on it and drivers avoid them by driving around Glen Crescent. Miss Johnson told councillors Glen Crescent is a rat run. Mr Hill told councillors Milo had been trained to stop at the curb. Mr Hill had been getting out of his car when another sped along the road. Mr Hill said he heard the thump and realised Milo had been struck. He added, "As we got to the dog, the driver stopped his car, got out and shouted at me to keep my dog on a lead before driving off. We were tending to the dog. I never saw the number plate, but we reported it to the police. Our worry is that it could easily have been a child running out to collect a ball and being hit by a car." The petition to the council said, despite there being a clear 20 mile per hour speed limit, these vehicles constantly race across the crescent. This resulted very recently in the tragic, completely unnecessary death of a much-loved pet dog. Glen Crescent is a strong community, and this incident powerfully reinforced how much the street has changed in recent years. Where once we were an older group of residents, we now have numerous households with nursery, primary and secondary aged children and have to acknowledge the risk to us all. The installation of traffic calming measures at both ends of Glen Crescent has become imperative. Councillors expressed their sympathies for the loss of the pet. Road Network Manager Gordon Brown revealed a list of projects which have had spending agreed for this financial year. He faced questions from councillors around the chamber as to why anecdotal and neighbours' evidence on speeding couldn't be considered when considering spending on road safety. Mr Brown said that the council had to rely on strict rules laid down by Transport Scotland, and only accident data reported to the police could be used to score the need for road safety works at sites where there had been serious or fatal accidents. Damage to property or pets killed by speeding drivers would not be considered. He added that a full survey of hazard potential would need to be carried out in Glen Crescent before any action could be taken. Fellow ward member Labour's Anne McMillan, who sits on the executive, asked if Glen Crescent and the surrounding area could be considered in a future road safety analysis. Councillor agreed and asked for a survey by Glen Crescent and Glen Road area to be carried out to be potentially included in future works planned for 2025-26. The council works at 5 sites across the county included resurfacing with anti-skid material, new warning signs and traffic islands. Councillors gave the go-ahead for work to start.
This next article is a little bit of advice on gardening, with a spotlight on watering. After a wet winter, you probably feel there's no need to be careful with water. It's true, you don't need the hose as often in a poor summer since the weather does the watering for you. But there are always those few things that need a helping hand. You can't leave tubs and hanging baskets, even if there are summer showers, since they're often in the rain shadow of the house, and by the time container plants have grown enough, they act as their own umbrella, shrugging off any rain that reaches them. Intensively planted veg and salad beds need checking regularly too. If they dry out badly, your crops will suffer. Closely spaced crops may need watering every day, even if this summer isn't a scorcher. The same is true of plants in the greenhouse, particularly those in pots. Any newly planted flowers, roses, shrubs in the garden will also benefit from regular watering to help get established in their first few months. Soak them once a week when the soil around them feels dry. In a long dry spell, it's advisable to water any fruit trees and bushes that are carrying crops, since unripe fruit is often shed prematurely if the plants are stressed due to water shortage. But there are lots of places you don't need to bother watering, even if the rainfall is lacking. Established trees, shrubs and climbers can safely be ignored, and the lawn will be fine, even if it turns a little bit brown. If you don't cut it too closely, it will stay greener longer.
This next article is a very short article about the Pobeth Gala Day. A magical day for everyone. Summer fun was the order of the day in Pobeth at the weekend as the community celebrated its Gala Day. The special day saw Elise Grimley being crowned as the Gala Queen for 2024. A spokesperson said on the Gala Day's Facebook page, "The Gala Day committee would like to thank everyone for showing up and having a fantastic day yesterday. The work that goes into making the day happen is beyond what you would imagine, so to hear great comments and praise from people about how well the day went makes it all worthwhile." Next year's prep has already started, and with our first Gala committee meeting is on Tuesday the 6th of August at 6 p.m. in the Village Hall for anyone wishing to join us. You might only have time to attend a meeting or two, or can only help on the day, but when everyone comes together, it makes for a better day for the children of our wee village. And it's accompanied by various pictures of the groups walking the Gala Day March.
And our final item today, it's an item which was mentioned last week, but we are repeating it this week. Team 4 read it as part of last week's reading, but I'd like to remind you of what it says. I would like to tell you about an idea which was discussed at last committee meeting. It was suggested that we could record question and answer sessions between a Boomerang team member and representatives from groups and organisations who could possibly offer support and ideas to help our listeners. These recordings would be sent out to you as part of the normal Boomerang recording. We have had 1 or 2 suggestions for possible guests, such as someone from Cyrenians or Sight Scotland. But we would be very interested to find out what or whom you would like to hear from. So, if you have any thoughts on this matter, please call Heather on 077 07 830 634 or put a wee note in your wallet before you send it back to us. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of part 4. We've come to the end of this week's recordings. We hope you have enjoyed it. When you've finished listening to the recording, can I remind you to place the USB stick back in the wallet, reverse the label so that the cut corner is at the top right-hand side, and post it back to us as soon as possible. And a final reminder, wallets should only be posted in a post box. Do not post them in a post office. It apparently causes big problems. So, it's goodbye from Team 5. Until next time, stay safe and stay well.